we stepped up a few inches last year, 2018, when it comes to ease of doing business ranking. But again, the government says the ease of doing business is still work in progress. Of course, you remember, or we all remember, 2-3 years ago, all the executive orders around ease of doing business, and of course, those rankings by the World Bank and the World Economic Forum about how to easy to do business in Nigeria. The woman at the center of the ease of doing business is the Special Assistant to the President on Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. And this is what she told our audience a few days ago here in Lagos about what was achieved last year and what more the administration intends to do this year despite the political overhang. Let's take a listen to her.
Over the last 3 years, we've been able to move our rankings progressively. More importantly than rankings, because rankings are relative, depending on what other countries are doing, our score has gone up over 11 points. Now, that's from a decline for the previous decade before that. So we'll tell you how we did that, a bit of how we did that. Of course, it's always nice when you get the movement in rankings. So over the last 3 years, we have moved up 24 points. We've also just focused on state governments. Nigeria is a big country, and a lot of states had given us, a lot of businesses had given us the feedback that ease of doing business, rather than just focusing on Lagos, although you're all sort of Lagosians and based here. But you heard Michael talking about his offices across the country. Most businesses do have offices and make, business across the country. So we worked with state governors. From 2017, we started a project. I made a presentation with the Honorable Minister to the National Economic Council. That's where you have the Council of Governors. It's also chaired by the Vice President. And they unanimously agreed to partner with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to work on the business climate across the country. So we did quite a lot of good work together. And the empirical proof is that the World Bank released a report on Nigeria last year, in October last year, and 32 out of 36 states had moved right, had moved significantly, with states like Kaduna, with states like Anambra, Lagos, really moving up and doing things like harmonizing taxes, a lot of transparency initiatives. I'll tell you a bit about that later. We also plan to have a survey for the states so that more people can know what exactly is available outside of Lagos, outside of Abuja, outside of Port Harcourt, outside of Kano, so that businesses can begin to move and we can begin to have development across the country. You all know that the PEBEX mandate fits very snugly within the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The third pillar in that plan, that's the Nigeria's Economic Outlook Plan for our guests, speaks to competitiveness, how you develop a competitive and productive economy. Of course, the first section of that pillar talks on power, and then the second section of that first section talks about roads and rail, and more recently we've added the need for broadband across the country. But perhaps, still on that slide, but perhaps most importantly, for the first time an administration has seen it fit to put the ease of doing business, soft infrastructure, front and center into its economic plan. And you have this project fitting right there within that. So we're also, as we partner with the states, creating a baseline so that everybody knows where progress and development and productivity, what the manpower, what the skills are, what the resources are, the kinds of policies and bottlenecks or ease of doing business in particular areas across the country. Next slide. Yeah. So now this year, a number of things that we're going to do and continue to do. First of all, we have had an ambitious target. Everybody knew when we set the target for 20 points, because the 140 mark, we were coming from 169. The 140s was about the average for sub-Saharan Africa. And we had said that by 2020, we want to be sub-100, within the first 10 countries in the world for doing business. Now, we're definitely charging towards that this year because the reports are released a year in advance. So we're declaring it upfront at the beginning of the year that we are going sub-100 this year. Now we moved up 24 spaces. Last year we also moved up in our score, but our ranking fell by 1 place because it's really very competitive. A lot of countries, I think we were knocked out by, I can't remember which of the countries knocked us down a place, but it's really been, and we're not alone. The UK was knocked down. Quite a few other countries also took a knock in the last report because people have just a higher level of ambition. So we're definitely ramping up. And what I would say is that we left quite a bit on the table. Reforms were done, but private sector did not know about the reforms and so did not validate them, and so they were not counted. So you can imagine that as we implement our 2019 plan, a strategic communications initiative is front and center, and we really do need private sector support in that regard. Now, I mentioned the collaboration of last year. We continue to collaborate, particularly with the National Assembly, because legislation and certainty of laws is really critical for investment. Now, we've been overhauling the Companies and Allied Matters Act. The CAM bill was passed through the Senate in May of 2018. A lot of political will, huge support from the Senate President, the Office of the Senate President. We worked hand in hand with several lawyers, the Section of Business Law of the Nigerian Bar Association, and the NASBA. A lot of stakeholders, the stock exchange, different people came together to work, NESG, to work on the CAM bill, and the Senate passed it. Right now it's at the House because there was this long recess, there were some political distractions, but it's about to pass its second reading. And I mentioned this specifically because this is the time for private sector to put that pressure and to really say, look, before May, we really want this bill passed. And so please do chip in a word in that regard. For the first time, we've also been working on an omnibus bill. An omnibus bill is a legislative tool that has been used by a number of countries to really just comb out a lot of legacy issues and to fix a quick targeted intervention. So we've been working on that, also with the same, very similar stakeholders, the Section of Business Law, a number of law firms, about 40 law firms, including this one, contributed, working pro bono and helping think through and shape that agenda. We also partnered with NESG on that, so several of the business community as well.